Okay, I'm gonna do a quick overview for the Moral Life of Schools project. Um, and it's a field experience as well as the reading. Um, so let me go ahead and share my screen. This is the explanation that I have in the syllabus. Um, so you first will read um, The Moral Life of Schools. Um, if um, if you're unable to let's see. So yeah, if you're okay. Okay. So sorry for that. So you're asked to purchase the book. If the book's unavailable, I have posted the introduction and part one, which explains the various ethical and moral categories that they used or derived, I guess, really from their research. Okay, I mean, it would be good to read the rest of the book if you're able to. I think most people that read it um, find it helpful, not just for the project, but in their teaching. Okay. And this is basically, in terms of philosophy, um, this is the moral ethical aspect of philosophy, which is not something in philosophy that people tend to talk about. But in teaching, I think, I mean, philosophers, a lot of our ideas about morality and ethics have been crucified on the cross of relativism. I don't think most teachers view the world in that way. Um, I think most teachers have a strong sense of morality and ethics. I know I do. When it comes to interacting with my students, particularly in terms of ethics. Um, I have, you know, a pretty strong ethic when it comes to my students. There's, if not literally, there's an implied contract between student and teacher uh, for K-12 folks. Um, that would involve parents. Um, you know, um, you do face the two extremes: parents that don't seem to participate, and parents that seem to participate in their child's schooling, maybe too much so, and have various types of expectations that may seem at times unreasonable. But I think by and large, parents want to see their students succeed, but also want them to learn. So we have that implied relationship, and of course, with colleagues. Um, so colleagues and supervisors. And so that's, but really for our everyday lives, there's that moral and ethical actions that occur within the classroom. And this is what this project is really about. So all these ethical categories, moral categories, are classroom related. So once you've read the book, then, or have at least have a good idea of what you want to observe, then I ask for you to do 2 observations in a classroom. If you're in higher ed, I usually want that to be in a university classroom, no matter what your job in higher ed may be, particularly in terms of administration. If that's what your goal is. If you're in athletics, then that can be, I know I have a lot of folks that are trainers. So those observations can occur in the training room. If you're a coach, that can be on the field or in some type of coaching environment, if that's possible. And if summer, it gets a little tighter. So the question generally is for teachers. We know there are university classrooms that you can observe this summer. You may have to, I mean, it may be, I think a lot of classes are back live. So that should not be an issue. We have in the past had enhancement classes on campus, middle school level. I haven't heard on that, and so that's something I'll need to check on. And in the K-12, environment, I believe, from what I've gathered, is that because there's a lot of catching, schools feel like there's a lot of catching up to do, districts, I should say, that there are classes going on this summer. And so you, as teachers, you would have a better sense of that. And basically what I'm asking you to do is to do 2 observations. And you need to know what those categories are in part 1 to do those observations, because you're observing, trying to see what aspects are being presented in that classroom. And that's what you're going to observe. You're not supposed to make judgments like, well, I didn't think this teacher did a very good job on that activity, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's not what this is about. And if you're going to observe, it's probably best not to tell them exactly that this is a moral, ethical observation. But what you're really observing is the teacher's practice, and you can tell them that. I'm here to look at your practice. Because by and large, a teacher's ethics is fundamentally related to their teaching practice, okay? And so the judgment will come, if you will, in what you identify, but you don't have to identify, you don't have to make judgments about that teacher, okay? That's not what we're asking. And again, it's 2 observations, preferably at 2 different times, and preferably the same classroom, okay? Okay, so at the end, after the 2 observations, and all this should be in the same document, then you would do a reflection. The reflection is not a reflection on what you observed, but it is a reflection about what you've learned about your own practices. Okay, so for teachers, it's teaching practices. So for higher ed, it is my own work practices, if you will, depending on what that situation is. If you're not sure and you have questions, email me. We can get together. If you're on campus, we could probably get together next Tuesday. If we need to do a phone call, we can do that. If we need a Zoom meeting, and we can do that. So I'm readily available to talk with you about your situation, be you higher ed or K-12. Okay. But if you don't have a classroom to observe for whatever the reason, then then all you really would need to do to complete the assignment, because you won't have an observation to do, is to do the reflection, to reflect upon your own teaching practices based upon what you read in the Moral Life of Schools. Okay. But I'd like to know which of you are not going to be able to do observations. So or at least try to get that done. Okay. So let's see, I don't have the due date on here, but it's due, I'm pretty sure it's due in that last week. And again, I want to remind you that all the due dates in Portfolium are there to allow you to submit your assignments up until the time grades are due. So June 28th, which is the due date in Portfolium, is the day grades are due. So you need to have it completed before June 28th, so I can assess it and post the grades. Okay, just a reminder. All right, so let me know if you have any questions. That's pretty much it. And I look forward to seeing what you can do. Thanks.